What's going on, everybody? Joshua Tree here, back with another video. Judging by the title of this video, you can tell that it's about to be a very interesting video. And so before I get into this topic today, I just want to put out a little disclaimer that what I am about to share with y'all is not to convert you over to my beliefs, convert you over to how I see things or anything of that nature. This is simply an informative, educational video. I know a lot of people is going to get their feathers ruffled in this particular topic that we're going to be talking about, but I ask you to be open minded. I ask for you to um, listen to what I am saying versus what your beliefs is telling you in terms of what I'll be sharing. So, before we get into the topic, also, I want to talk about the work that I've done to come up with this realization and understanding. So, for the past 7 years, 8 years or so, I've delved deep into energy work. So, I understand energy very well. All right. I also dove deep into my chakra system. So, when it comes down to activating the chakras, I have done that repeatedly over and over and over. I have expanded my chakras. I have a very, very strong third eye, a pineal or, brow chakra. And let's just say that my psychic abilities of clairvoyance and clairsentient is also very heightened as well. I've also studied under a tantric yogi teacher for the past maybe 2.5 to maybe 3, 4 years now, which for people who don't know, Tantra also deals with the science of energy. So, like Nikola Tesla always says, or he has said before, is that everything in the universe is based on energy, frequency, and vibration. So when you understand that concept, you will understand more about all things that are deemed unseen. All right. So I just want to put that out as a disclaimer, a little additional information. And we're going to get right into this video because I have a lot to say about it. And yeah, let's get it popping. All right. So the question is, do Jesus exist? Right. Now, we, of course, living in the Western world, we have been indoctrinated and have adopted this belief that, there is a such thing as Jesus and, this God, this deity, this energy resides in all of us and we have access to it. And this is the all and be all. Okay. Now, also, I want to place emphasis on my interaction with Jesus. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a story of how I came into this realization that Jesus actually is real. Okay. There was a time where I started questioning so much, and I was like, you know what? If Jesus is real, I want you to show me that you're real. So I asked this question right before I went to sleep. I was like, you know what? If you are real, I want you to reveal yourself to me. Right now, went to sleep, didn't think none of it, or what have you. I had a dream that following night. Jesus came to me. All right. And he came to me, and for some reason it was like he took me on his shoulders, or like he did somehow some kind of way we was elevating. We was basically going off. We was like basically leaving the planet, like I'm looking at myself leaving planet Earth, and I guess we was ascending to the heavens. And this whole entire time I kept thinking to myself, like, oh shit, like Jesus is really real. Like he came and got me to show me like he is real. And all I could remember was like, damn, like, but I'm not ready to go yet. That's all I kept telling myself. I'm not ready to go yet. I just want to know if he was real, but I'm not ready to ascend to this next level. And so I remember in the dream, I was holding on to something that was in reality, something that was in the material world. And so Jesus was like, okay, you're not ready yet. All right. You're not ready to let go so I can show you more. Right. And so Jesus basically dropped me off, you know what I'm saying, where I was at, where I wanted to be. And I forgot what I was attached to, right? Because they talk about attachments a lot, about not being attached to this physical world. I forgot what I was attached to, but it was something I wanted to still experience. And so I went back to that part of whatever consciousness it was around that time. So I woke up with this realization, and that's what made me realize, like, oh shit, Jesus is actually real. Now, I say this to say, for people who have, um, let's say, been a believer in Jesus for the past 10 years, 15 years, 20, 30 years, I would like for you to also ask that question. Now, for some people who may not have experienced Jesus in their life, but you believe in Jesus, I would like for you to ask that question before you go to sleep. Jesus, if you are real, I want you to reveal yourself to me. All right. Allow this energy to come to you. Now, if Jesus doesn't come to you, that doesn't mean that he isn't real, but I want you to have your own discernment, because, like I said, I am not trying to convince anybody about what my realization is with this, but it may support someone. But I want you to have your own discernment on how you view that. I want you to decode your own symbolism, your own interpretation of what that is for you. All right. So moving on forward, that's the story I want to share with y'all. So that's was my interpretation of Jesus being a real energy. Now, in terms of the history, the historical piece of Jesus, Jesus never existed in terms of walking and talking in this physical existence. All right. Now, what I do understand, because I say I understand energy very well, Jesus is an energy. Jesus is an energy form that you can talk to, that you can communicate with. And just like any form of energy in the physical world, everything has its own consciousness. Everything is aware of itself. Okay. A fruit, like an apple, is aware of itself. A tree is aware of itself. Uh, 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 oh, you know what? Let me say this, because certain, like, say, insects and dogs and cats or whatever, some animals, trees, birds, bees are have awareness, but they may not be aware of themselves. That's a difference. But when we talk about higher types of energies, right, like Jesus, for instance, Jesus has an awareness piece to it. So it has a form of intelligence. Everything in nature, everything in the physical realm has a form of intelligence. So that means that it knows how to communicate. That means that it has some bit of intelligence, just like human intelligence. So Jesus has a human, I'm not sorry, not human intelligence, has a form of consciousness, a form of awareness, a form of intelligence that we can communicate with and we can interact with. All right. And so I've also seen throughout the years that people who do believe deeply into Jesus, I've seen what Jesus has done for their life. So I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying Jesus isn't real. That's not the vibe here. I've seen people who believe in Jesus, how their business has transformed, how their life has transformed, how they was in the darkness and they got out of the light because they believed in Jesus. So that to me is enough for me to have, like, okay, what are we talking about here? Right. And when I say, what are we talking about here? When I got into spirituality, when I got into the conscious community, when I got into the metaphysical community, when I got into the occult community, there was a lot of, Jesus doesn't exist. Who the hell is Jesus? Is man made, is all made up, is for indoctrination, is for manipulation. And that is a fact. But what I also realized is that Jesus has been, let's say, framed. So this is what I understand. This is how I see it. When I hear a lot of people talk about Jesus and how Jesus isn't real and how Jesus, is just something for the white man, is something for us to keep us enslaved as black people, I do see that perspective, but I see it from the perspective of, if you are not understanding how the Bible works and not understanding religion, because religion is a very indoctrinated, manipulative system. And so what I see is that we're talking about an energy, just pure energy, okay? An energy that has been attached to a system, and the system is corrupted, okay? And so if this system is corrupted, that energy will also be corrupted. So it's like Jesus is the mascot playing for a football team, and the football team is not a great football team. And so Jesus, or the mascot, has to suffer for this football team. So when we talk about Christianity, we talk about religion. I don't personally fuck with religion because it's so limited, and it doesn't allow you to think for yourself. You have to think based off of whatever is in that religion. So when we talk about us being spiritual beings, us self being self-governed, us having our own autonomy, I don't see a correlation in that. That is my view on that, right? But when I think about Jesus, Jesus to me was framed. That's how I see it. My whole thing is this: when I hear a lot of people sound so mad, they're like, F Jesus, da da da, all these things. I'm like, bro, you can't hate on the energy. Like, to me, that's like crazy. How do you hate on an energy? Like, it is literally an energy. So what we have done is we have humanized energy. So we made Jesus, or any other energy for that matter, Shiva, Krishna, whoever, we have made it to where it seems like we're talking to a human. When these are energies, we have made these things too personal. So when I hear someone that says F Jesus, I'm like, why you sound so mad? Why you sound like Jesus is around the corner and he owe you some money? So a lot of people in the conscious community, they have that type of energy towards Jesus. And so, like I said, I know why they have the hatred is because of the indoctrination. This is because of the fact that us as black people, everything has been stripped away from us. And so when they tell us to believe in someone such as Jesus, which is this white symbol, right? It's like we don't see ourselves in that. But we've been taught to see ourselves in that. And so it does create a lot of frustration because also we see that us as black people have been dominated by the white culture, or the Europeans or the Caucasians or what have you. So I see why people have that frustration. But when I remove that and I start to see it on an energetic level, and I also start to understand the energy of Jesus, that, from the compassion, the love, the forgiveness, the, follow me and I'll show you the way. I'll take you out of poverty and into abundance, or what have you. When I see the power of this energy, I want to be very clear with that. The power of this energetic energy and what it can do for people, I don't really see it as like a negative thing anymore. I see it as, do you resonate with that energy, or do you not resonate with that energy? Okay. And so I want to highlight that because, you know, we're just talking about energy at the end of the day. We're talking about different energy forms that you can interact with. You have a choice to interact with. Some people, right, don't resonate with Jesus. Some people resonate more with Buddha, which is not even a deity. He's a spiritual teacher that's been deified. But some people may really relate to Buddha more. Some people may relate to Krishna. Some people may relate to Shiva, right? So I want to place emphasis on that you have the autonomy, the freedom to connect with any energy. Okay, because one thing that I realized, and this was kind of broke me out of religion, because I was Baptist to like 22, 23, and I became like, okay, I'm not really into this anymore. Let me find my own path. Was that when I start to see that other cultures around other parts of the world, they didn't even believe in Jesus. You go out in the Eastern world, they don't even talk about Jesus like that. That's not even something that's brought up. So I realize it's a Western thing where it's kind of like I said, it's like wherever part of the world that you're in, they have their own philosophy, their own culture, their own beliefs, their own way of doing things. That's what's popularized in that area. In the West, it's more popularized with Christianity. Therefore, we're going to be, indoctrinated with that type of religious belief or belief system, right? And so let's move forward from that. So I also want to talk about, of course, the story of Jesus. The story of Jesus is not original. So, when you hear or read the stories based off King James and all these other versions of the Bible and all this stuff, when you hear about the story of Jesus, this is not like the first original story of Jesus. Jesus is a Christ-like energy. There's different types of Christ-like deities, Christ-like energies. Krishna is another example of a Christ-like energy. Okay, Dionysus, right? We talk about the Greek god Dionysus. He's all about wine, turning water into wine. The same thing that Jesus has done. Same thing that Jesus has been said through the Bible, right? You got Osiris, right? Osiris deal with death and rebirth, right? The second coming. So think about Jesus once again, right? Jesus died and was reborn and all this type of stuff. So there's other mythologies pre-Christianity that has the same story as Jesus. So it's about bringing your awareness to other things, other paths that was prior to Christianity. And Jesus comes out of a lot of these earlier mythologies and has created its own mythology, which is, Christianity and the story of Christ as Jesus Christ and stuff like that. So I want to place emphasis on that as well, is because we're talking about originality. We're talking about the root of where all started, right? And that also could be something that's frustrating, because when you're a person who's deep into your research and start to understand where things truly come from, like the origin of things, you start to see that Jesus Christ really wasn't around in the earlier pre Christian era, early on in history, right? And so let's go a little bit deeper into more about Jesus. Now, this will also came to another realization, right? We have to understand, okay, that when you don't understand energy, you have to put it in a more archetype type of framework. You have to put it in a more symbolic type of framework so you can understand the energy of it. When you are so in tune to energy, you don't need a story. You can just connect straight to the energy. So what I mean by that is, if I'm meditating next to my altar, I don't have to read about the deity that I'm trying to connect with. I just call in the deity and I can feel his energy around me, because I'm very in tune energetically to where I could feel that energy working with me. Now, to get more of a deeper connection, yes, I can read its story to understand its energy more, its archetype, its attributes, its characteristics, right? And that's what we do when we do more altar work, working with certain spirits and things like that. But you're going to get to the point where you want to just be able to connect to that energy without even needing that level of support. And so I said that to say, a symbol tells 1,000 words. Jesus has a lot of characteristics and attributes. And when I realize is when people say, true, God, divinity is feminine, right? So there's like Jesus, or Jesus is a male spirit. We we cannot say that this is the all and be all, when the true uh, God, if you will, divine source, is a feminine energy. So what I realize is that, okay, yes, once again, Jesus is a male spirit, but Jesus is also an androgynous spirit, meaning that Jesus has both the masculine and feminine principle and within his essence. So when we are learning more about Jesus, it's not about worshiping. That's what a lot of people do. It's not about worshiping Jesus or any of these spirits and deities. It's about becoming. So you're becoming Christ. You're becoming a Christ consciousness. You're not worshiping it. And so when we talk about Jesus being a male spirit and Jesus being an androgynous spirit, we're talking about the feminine aspects to it, right? We already know the male aspects to it, okay? But the feminine aspects to it, which we need to work on and embody within ourselves, is the love component, is the forgiveness component, is the compassionate component, is the healing. These are feminine characteristics. These are feminine attributes. So all of us have an androgynous spirit. All of us have an androgynous essence. We're not completely masculine. We're not completely um, feminine. We're both coming into unison, coming into one. So Jesus' story, Christ's story, is to become one with both sides, become one with yourself. Okay. And so we're talking about a symbol, like I said. So when you're studying Jesus, when you're learning Jesus' way, think about it in terms of what can I embody within myself that Christ has taught you, or the teachings of Jesus Christ. How can you embody that, right? We talk about patience, right? We talk about having compassion for others. I'm going to be completely honest. I do healing work. This is part of my life. And when I tell you the level of compassion that I have for other people, it is Christ-like. When I tell you the people who I know who claim themselves as Christians, they struggle with compassion for others. They struggle with forgiveness for others. But they're reading the Bible that says, I must forgive thy neighbor. I must forgive myself. I must forgive other people. This is why I always see a discrepancy, a misalignment with people who claim to be Christians, because they're not truly practicing. They're just intellectualizing and have a deep understanding of what Christ did, but I don't see them embodying any of his teachings. And I don't roll like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to do it right. If you're going to do it all the way. So it's like fully letting go and being in complete um obedience of with this energy that follow, worship, or deem this is your your heaven, your governor, your the spirit that you feel is in resonance with your highest good. Let's just say that. So be mindful that like I said, there's different deities across the culture. Jesus happens to be a male spirit. Shiva, for example, is a male spirit. Okay. And so we all know that Shiva, if some may not know, but Shiva deals with complete, the non-manifested, right? Deals with the masculine principle. When you look at Shiva, the symbol Shiva, when you look at Shiva, Shiva is in a meditative pose with an erect spine, which symbolizes centeredness. The symbolizes directness, symbolizes the balance within itself. And so when we think about Christ's energy, Christ has attributes and characteristics that are somewhat similar to Shiva, but different to a degree. Because, like I said, we're dealing with androgynous energy. Shiva by itself is just strictly polarization of masculine. And then Shiva meets Kali, right? And or Shakti, and they become one with each other, and it becomes a unison, becomes unification, like I said earlier. So understand that Jesus is a symbol. It's an energy, and how we connect to this energy is through symbology. All right. So that can just demystify all this humanizing that we're doing by making things so personal. It's like, how can you can't make these energies personal. You're taking it out of the spiritual context and you're making it human, which is very low frequency. So keep it at the level that's supposed to be at, and you just find ways to connect to that energy. All right. And so I will also, leave you with this challenge as well for yourself, is to ask the question, Jesus, do you govern my life? And see what response you get. See if, or rather don't allow the religious beliefs that's been given to you as a child, okay, and the fear behind those religious beliefs alter or stop you from asking that question. A lot of people are actually fearful of questioning God, questioning Jesus, because they've been told that they'll go to hell, or that is blasphemy, or that's a sin. You're not supposed to question it. I highly advise you to question it, because we're shifting out of the age of belief and we're shifting into the age of knowing. You want to know at this point if this is an actual energy, an actual spirit, someone that you actually are calling on and getting the support from. Stop relying on your religious beliefs that's been given to you that you just accepted unconsciously, that maybe it's not even working for your energy anymore. You might be more related to like the Eastern world, the Eastern deities. That might be more of your jam. But being that we live in the West, we just automatically assume, oh, this got to be the all and be all. Question your beliefs, start developing an independent mind, and all truths will circle back to itself. I'm not saying that, you questioning this, having these questions is going to take you down a path of unrighteousness or whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is discover for yourself what is your truth. And if you're led back to Christianity, then that's your truth. And that's that. We ain't got to be over here. Oh, nah, bro. Like, they ain't got nothing to do with the Egyptians. I'm not about to do all that. What is your truth? Period. Like, what we doing here? Like, it just seems like it's always this constant, like, this is who we supposed to be. This is who we supposed to be. You know, this is our true African spiritual system and all this shit. I don't resonate with none of that shit. All right. What resonates with you is what truly matters at the end of the day. So I just say that to say, y'all do the same thing. Find out what truly resonates with you. All right. And so lastly, I want to talk about something that I'm also seeing. So we got to understand something too. When you're trying to connect with, say, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Shiva, Shakti, you name it, right? Kali, you name it. Even with the Orishas, you name it. What I've noticed is that a lot of people who have a strong radical belief in a lot of these deities and entities, they don't truly allow these spirits and entities to play out in their life because they're so reliant on their logic. And so what I mean by that is it's a lot of people who think that they have to do so many things for the reality to come into play or come into fruition, and he never relax and let go and allow this deity, this spirit, this essence to come through and support them. This is a form of healing that needs to take place. This is what's considered to be a spiritual wound. And a spiritual wound is a person who relies so much on their rationality and logic that they don't allow something greater to come in and support them. So if you find yourself always have to know every detail, have an itinerary, have a task list of all things that need to be taken care of before you do anything, because you believe that you're the only one that can do it. You are responsible for everything that happens in your life. You cannot fuck up. If you believe in that, that is a good indicator that you have a separation wound. You are separated from divinity. You're separated from source. You're separated from God, and you need to heal this separation and come back into union with God, creator, source, universe, or whatever you call it. What I realized over the years is that I was very logical in terms of how I'm trying to do things. When I start to let go, right? Let go and let God, right? When I start to let go and stop thinking I had to do all these things, spirit was showing up as my partner, right? Showing up, supporting me. If I'm having a speech, talking to amongst people, I'm not talking. I'm not the one saying these words. Spirit is coming through me, channeling through me. But if you're a person who's so deep into, oh, I got to know every single page that I learned from this author, and I got to make sure I say this particular scientific fact. And when you're in that space, you have separated yourself from something greater. So for people who are into religion, people who are into Christianity, Baptists, whatever it is that you claim, do you really have a genuine, true, authentic, knowing connection with whoever it is that you are into, right? And if you do, how do you know? We're talking about knowing. How do you know? I know. how spirit shows up in my world. I can see how spirit shows up in my world. I'm thankful. I'm grateful for how spirit shows up in my world. This is so, you know, we're talking metaphysical, right? You can't see God, but you can see God. So if you can't see God, you can feel God. How do you know? Or are you just going off of with some shit that you've seen on social media? God is this, God is that, and then you just allowing your beliefs, because your beliefs will tell you, your beliefs will create your reality. Your beliefs will say, yep, that's what I believe in. And it will play out. It will reaffirm itself. Oh, Josh, I believe in the moon. The moon comes through, you get all this energy from the moon. It'll happen, without a doubt. I'm asking you to question those beliefs. Get into a knowing of what is true to you. And this is not a form of separation where people may come on this video and leave a comment and say, "Oh, well, I don't believe in it." I'm not trying to separate how I view things in terms of how you view things. What I'm saying is that we are all part of this collective, and every aspect of ourselves, whether it's universal base or personal base, differs. But it doesn't make us different. It just means that we're experiencing the all and be all of all things in a different way. It's manifesting in a different way. So if God, let's just say, wanted to create his or her creation, right? Or it creations to re-experience itself, it is re-experiencing itself in different aspects of itself, which is Joshua Tree is coming on here sharing how I view spirit. You know, Jack is coming on here sharing how he views spirit. Jill is coming on here sharing how she views spirit. It's all the same. Humans have a great way of separating, so they don't see it as that. But while we are in the physical, we can keep it as separate because we all have our own individuality. But on the opposite end of individuality is unison. And so unity comes to be one, right? So separation is the same as unity. It's opposite polarity, but it's the same. And so that's what we doing. That's what we doing here. I'm just sharing a different aspect of oneness. Okay. So I think that's all I wanted to share with this video. I think that's all I wanted to share with this video. Oh, lastly, and so to end off with everything, for me personally, I don't leave nothing on the table, meaning that whatever deity, whatever entity, whatever spirit, whatever God, whatever you think of, energy source, form, whatever you think of, that I need or I feel in alignment with, or I even have on my altar because I got several altars, I will call on them. I will not leave them by the wayside because I feel like, oh, well, that's part of that religion or this is part of that religion. Like traditionally, that's how people do things. I'm not a traditional person. I've been taught by a very masterful occultist on how to break past all these barriers. And I have worked with this for a very long time. So I know that you do not have to do that in order to connect to these different spirits. So I communicate with all deities and spirits because all of them have a benefit, all of them have a positive intent, right? So I do view myself as a spiritualist or a shaman. I do see myself in that frame of being able to connect to energy very well. All right. But I'm not saying that to say that I'm different from you. All I'm saying is I just put in a lot of work to make sure that it is what I wanted for myself in this reality. Right. And so I believe that's all I want to share with y'all. Definitely would like to hear y'all comments down below, what y'all got to say. It would be very insightful to hear. And yeah, I think that's all I got for y'all. So on that note, I'm gonna let y'all go. Peace.